and welcome back again to another episode of your favorite true crime and criminal culture show, Thought Riot Podcast.
Where are we? Location.
We're on the move. We're currently driving across the country in an RV. Yeah.
Yeah, we are currently in Moscow, Idaho, investigating the tunnels.
Yep, with a power stash. All right. So, since we are not in our normal studio, we are with family for Thanksgiving, and we just didn't want to miss the show. And the plan was to do live streams, but our mics that we brought with us aren't connecting directly to our phone. So we figured we'd just hop on here this way, and then we'd still be able to put the podcast together and post it like normal. It'll just be shorter than normal, but we're doing some updates, staying on top of everything while we're here, and we want to keep you in the loop as well. So we'll get right into it. This week we are not going to do a true crime Thought Riot creator spotlight just because of the circumstances, and we're going to keep this as short as we can so it's an easy edit and post. And honestly, there probably won't be any pictures on the screen. We're just going to keep it straight up conversational. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully you enjoy the conversation, and we will get right into our Thought Riot true crime breaking news, not updates.
Yeah.
So we're going to be recording in 2 separate days too. So I'm going to have to say that one more time for the editing purposes, but we're going to be cutting it up so that we're not out here for 3 hours straight or whatever it ends up coming out to, but we're still able to keep you guys in the loop. So hopefully it'll be a good show. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Hopefully the audio is good, and it
should be pretty much same audio unless our current location is causing weirdness. But same mics.
Should be, but since we're not live or anything like that, we should be good to go. And what's interesting is we have some pretty crazy updates, honestly, in the last few days. So anyways, we'll get into the Thought Riot true crime breaking news updates. So number one I have here, we have quite a few stories where the police are not doing their job, and we're kind of calling them out because something fell through the cracks, something fell through somebody's fingers. And in this case, it's the exact opposite. So apparently there's been a manhunt for this guy, Sean Williams, and he is a serial sexual assaulter. And the amount of people, I guess I'll go through the details first. So the amount of people here, he has currently 20 counts of aggravated sexual assault, plus 3 for the R word of a minor, plus 3 for aggravated of a minor. Just completely despicable. So he had been arrested. He got out. So apparently he used like the shackle clip that's on the ground when he was being transported to get some kind of leverage and get out of that shackle, ripped the fencing off the window, kicked out the back window, and got out. So this guy... Of a transportation vehicle. So this guy was already caught once, and he got out of that. So they went hunting, they went searching for him, and it's a little bit mixed up because it sounds like he has so many charges, but sometime along the way, I don't know if it's post-breaking out or pre-breaking out, they did a search on his apartment and one of his places of residence. The guy had a ton of money, which makes it even worse. It probably made it to where he was harder to convict and went longer, but they found on his electronics, so on his cell phones, on his laptops, on his everything, 52 women that he had R-worded, like aggressive, R word on these electronics. On top of that, over 5,000 pictures of children.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what age range, it didn't say, and personally, I don't need to know. If they're under 18, and this dude, I believe he was in his 30s, maybe it's his 40s, I'll have triple check that, I'll post it on the screen when I'm editing, but that, to me, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. At this point, you're a danger to society, and when I was reading this, you know, it made me think, like, should we be holding somebody like this accountable in the same way that we would a serial killer?
Yeah, I think so.
I almost feel like that too. The amount of people's lives that are impacted and the amount of people's lives that will never be the same because they were taken advantage of, because they were aggressively and overpowered, and all the things that come with that, makes me feel like with now he has an escape on his hands. It made me think of Bundy, you know, with all the recent research I did on Bundy, just not ending them. But
exactly.
These people's lives are still affected forever.
Severely.
Yeah.
Severely. Like the way they look at relationships, you know, intimate relations, all that stuff. I mean, just even being alone somewhere. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like any situation where they have a little bit of like, you know, what... am I in danger will be so much more traumatizing to them.
Going shopping at night, going shopping alone, places where you got to be around other people. I agree. Will they even ever be able to go to a party again? I mean, I don't know, but I can only imagine that they're not going to be able to in these situations. And what's crazy is this guy was a business owner before he got caught. I think he was the former owner of Glass and Concrete. He had a ton of money. So he had multiple places. He would buy people off, from what it sounded like, where he would invite anyone and everyone over to his apartment and just flood them with money and things and whatever. Yeah. So there was some sort of intentionality behind it, you know, to where it
sounds like an addict, like addict, manipulator, psychopath.
Absolutely.
Like a serial killer.
Yeah, I agree. So I just want to give a shout out to the police who caught this guy. After he got out, they were on a manhunt up and down the seaboard, the eastern seaboard, and they finally were able to catch him in Florida from what sounded like incredible police work. Like, you know, getting all his information out there. They put him on the top most wanted list. They had people calling in and letting him know, hey, I think he was here. I'm not sure, but I think he was here. Following up on tips really quick, connected a stolen vehicle to him, connected a few places that he stopped at to get gas and other supplies, and they were on top of it, ultimately catching up to him while investigating. So they were able to catch this guy, and he is now in custody, which is phenomenal because someone like this just can't. There's no room for them in society, dude. This guy's scary.
Terrifying.
He's dangerous, and I think if he ever were to get out again, I personally think this is a situation where I would feel comfortable with
DP.
with a death penalty.
I agree.
So, good job on the cops there.
You know, these kinds of crimes, I feel like the first time it should be so like you're watched for the rest of your life pretty closely.
Yeah.
If you have assaulted,
well, like one person.
Especially a child.
In a situation
especially
like this.
A child.
Yeah.
And then the second, if it happens again while you're being watched that closely, it's almost like 2 strikes, you're out. Man, you're in jail or prison for the rest of your life. Yeah. Like, because the reoffending rate with these kind of crimes is outrageous.
It is.
It's like once they make that jump to do it, the likelihood that they're going to do it again is like, almost certain. Yep.
It is. So, you know, huge shout out to all the police officers involved. You know, the people, or at least the article I was reading, was the Tennessee, I got my notes here because we're recording with my phone, but it is the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations, but it sounds like they had North Carolina involvement. It sounds like they had the Marshals involved. It sounds like they had Florida involved. They had all these different police agencies involved, and they were able to catch this guy. So I just want to give a shout out, give credit where credit's due in these situations, because we're the last people that are going to be anti-law enforcement. I think law enforcement is essential and very important, and they do incredible, great work,
They should be supported when they're doing good work.
Absolutely. And judged harshly when they're not, but we got to be able to be, fair on both sides. And this is incredible that they were able to get this guy. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it is. So.
But let us know what you guys think.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so for our next breaking news update, the Patriot Front leader, Thomas Rozelle, out of Kootenai County, and the arrest happened just outside Coeur d'Alene, and he just got released from jail. And a lot of people are connecting some of the details of this with the Idaho 4 case. I'm curious to dig into it, and I just wanted to share it with everybody. Just some of the details around this. I have no idea if it looks like there's a connection. What's interesting, though, like the questions people are asking is they said that there's some kind of jailhouse snitch, right? And this guy was the leader. They were on the way to Pride Fest with riot gear in the back of a van. And
a U-Haul truck.
Or a U-Haul, that's right. A U-Haul truck.
With 30 guys.
And 30 guys going to cause problems at Pride Fest.
In Coeur d'Alene. They were
Coeur d'Alene.
Just north of Coeur d'Alene City Park. So they were in Coeur d'Alene and got stopped.
Okay.
They got stopped en route.
Okay, yeah. And that was June of 2022, and apparently he went to trial, and it was a mistrial. Yeah, it was it was a mistrial, and he was scheduled to be back in court on Monday starting the new trial, and the judge dismissed it,
saying it was an very old case for a misdemeanor.
To me, that sounds kind of shady. I mean, so, hey, it's been a year, so we're just going to forgive your racism in connection with this racist gang? You know what I mean? The Patriot Front is a notorious gang centered around racist ideals.
Yeah, it's really... Dude, they went...
I'm kind of blown away by this.
Yeah, because that's like terrorism.
I agree. Who knows what they stopped? And you're going to let somebody off the hook with this? And not just somebody, but the leader.
The leader.
So I understand why people are asking the question, right? And it's all good to go tin hat and everything, but can we find some kind of concrete evidence? I'm curious what happened in that original case that made it a mistrial. I'm curious to find some of those details out. We're going to start digging from here with this just being a breaking news update. I don't have a lot more to give everybody, but I think it's concerning.
Can I mention one thing real quick?
Of course. Absolutely.
So, of the 31, so there's 30 plus the leader. 18 pleaded guilty to the amended charge of failure to obtain a parade permit, an infraction, in order to pay $456.
Oh my gosh.
18 of them only had to pay a fine of $456, and their charge was failure to obtain a parade permit.
An infraction.
How does that charge, failure to obtain a parade permit, apply to this at all? They were going to hurt people.
Yeah, I mean, I need to update myself around everything that is required to land a RICO, but I would think that you're more likely to land a RICO with a skinhead gang than you should be letting them all off with infractions or completely dismissing it.
Okay, here's another one.
Especially the leader.
7 men were convicted of the conspiracy charge after 2 trials over the summer. The 5 men in the first trial were sentenced to 3 days in jail, 1 year probation and $1,000 fines. The other 2 were given 2 years of probation with $1,000 fine.
Oh my
gosh. Another member was sentenced to 1 year ago. Was sentenced 1 year ago to 2 years of probation, $500 fine after pleading guilty to disturbing the peace.
People could have been ended.
In an unrelated case, Boyce pleaded guilty to child image charges earlier this year and was sentenced to jail. His conspiracy to riot case status is listed as inactive pending, and no court hearings are scheduled.
No way. So there's some huge question marks around this.
This isn't
We're going to have to dig in. We're going to have to dig in. We've already been focusing on the Coeur d'Alene area. There's been some question marks around that area, and it's one of the cases that I've been looking into, and we have some funny business going on there. So we're going to stay close to this. This is insane and honestly a little bit scary.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's incredibly disturbing that they can be on the way to riot at a peaceful parade that literally has a lot of times families there.
Yeah, and children, little kids.
And whether it's your belief that they should be there or not, it doesn't matter. They're there.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yep.
And to go riot there and you know, potentially hurt them is gross.
Yeah, I agree. And then to be let off, to have our justice system in that area fail the rest of its citizens in such a way.
Like, you have the right to protest. You do not have the right to hurt people.
No, I agree. And the riot gear is not protesting.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
If you come there strapped up, you are not just there to protest.
I agree. That's one of the things that I've stated before on here is your dress attire matters.
Yeah.
So like no matter what your beliefs are, I will fight for people to have their own beliefs, even if I think they are gross, even if I think they are disgusting. If they stay beliefs, they're your own and you're allowed to have them. But your dress attire matters when you're coming to a plate. We'll just use this as an example, right? If you're coming there with aggressive looking clothing on, like body armor and shielding to protect yourself, that is socially connected to riots, law enforcement, negative things. There's no reason for that.
Well,
there.
Violence.
You're already looking threatening and aggressive without saying a word.
Yeah, and I feel like if you're doing that, you're coming there with the intention to incite something. That's
how I would take it. That's how I feel like we should take it. And even if we pick people up with that clothing on because it gives them an unfair advantage about law enforcement and send them on their way, I would be okay with that. I just don't think we should allow people to, protest with full riot gear.
No, I agree.
There's a problem there.
Say someone disagrees with your right to, I don't know, go get ice cream at the park.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's a fun day where everybody's supposed to be going to get ice cream at the park. And they're standing there where your children are, where your families are, people you care about. And they're standing there in riot gear with, like, weapons, whether it's guns or whether it's a baton or a shield can be used as a weapon.
I agree.
Looking aggressive and scary and like they're ready for a fight.
You only wear that if something's going to get physical.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're going to feel threatened. Your safety is going to feel threatened. Tensions are going to be heightened. It's a matter of fact that there is herd mentality.
Yep.
So when people start feeling panicked in that way, anything is possible.
Yep. And the thing is you don't wear those clothes if you're going there to talk about ideas. To be peaceful. Yeah.
Or to just protest peacefully.
Yep. Or share beliefs because there's no reason for that. I mean, we have our standard business get up. If you want to look like you're professional and that your beliefs mean something, that's more likely to be recognized than somebody showing up in riot type gear or shields or helmets or whatever. Flak jackets, vests, you know, anything that comes with it.
Yeah.
I see it as a problem. Whoever arrested them did the right thing and did their job, and our justice system here failed us yet again.
It's the judicial system that dropped the ball. Absolutely. They
100%.
did. They did, and it's gross.
Yep, and it feels like it's just becoming repetitive. So.
Yeah, it's not even it's not even the cops' fault in this at all.
It's not.
They did what they should have done.
Yeah.
They stopped them before they got there.
Yep.
It is 100% on the court system.
Yep. I agree. But let us know what you guys think in the comments below.
Yeah.
So this is our second set for this week's podcast, and hopefully it sounds good. We got the new live stream setup that we're using just because we already did some of the show while we were gone for Thanksgiving. We planned on doing the whole show, but it just didn't work out. I forgot a piece that I needed, and it didn't work out like I wanted it to. So this is the other half of the show. I think we've done a few breaking news updates, and
2 updates, 2 stories.
Yep.
And now we're going to do the rest.
Yes. But make sure you do all those things, all the likes, comments, notifications, everything on. You can find us at everywhere podcasts can be found. I mean, Apple, Amazon, Google, all of them.
Yeah, Spotify, YouTube. You know, just an update for the people. I'm sure the audio listeners won't really notice too much of a difference, but maybe a little in the audio.
Yeah, maybe a little bit on
video,
the sound.
You're going to notice a huge difference.
Yeah.
To the normal podcast. And next week, we will be back to the normal show.
We will. So we are going to get right into it and continue with the breaking news updates.
Yeah, but I want to say I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving, and if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, then just like a good day off.
Yeah. That.
Here's something insane that I just saw happened. And that Becky Hill, the court clerk from Murdaugh's trial, who has been accused of tampering with the jury, her son has been arrested for wiretapping. For recording two people's phone conversation without their knowledge.
No way.
Isn't that insane?
What? Does it give any details?
So, his name is, oh my gosh, where's his name at? I just pulled this up. Okay, Jeffrey Colton Hill.
Okay.
Jeffrey Colton Hill is the son of Becky Hill, and he was Colton County's information technology director.
Okay.
At the time. And this conversation that he supposedly recorded happened July 20th of this year, 2023. But the 2 people's names that he was recording have been redacted from the documentation. So we don't know whose conversation he was recording, but it's interesting.
Yeah, we don't know if it could have to do with what's going on with Becky.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what everyone I've seen so far who is like spoke on it on the news has been wondering. Does this have anything to do with Murdaugh's trial, with what was going on with Becky? Did he do this at the behest of his like mother? Like, did she ask him to? Is there more family corruption in this area with more families involved than we knew?
Yeah.
And what if the Hills are a part of it?
It could be. I don't know.
Maybe they're like a rival mob family or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It absolutely could be, for all I know.
But his IP address was found, it was his work computer. Like, they linked back the recording to his work computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's trouble all the way around.
But that's all we know. We literally don't know anything else. That's why it's an update. It's really, really strange.
Really vague.
Really, really vague. But he's not even scheduled to have a court appearance until next year. Well, which, with the holidays, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next year isn't that far away.
It does make sense. They probably picked him up and released him, but I'm super curious. Oh, excuse me. All that driving. I'm super curious what if it does have to do with this case. Like if it was found out because they were researching the Becky Hill case.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
It came to light because of that.
Me too. I'm very, very curious. But I believe he was arrested. I mean, this was posted November 22nd. So it's been 4 days since this actually came out. So it was just in this last week, I think, that he was arrested.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it was found out because of them investigating Becky.
Yeah, I would assume so, but maybe not. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with it. It based on his job title, it kind of doesn't sound like he's just a hardened criminal or anything like that. No. It sounds like he has a career and a job and everything. So,
well, with the county as their information technology director, which what does that entail? What do they normally do? I don't know. It's interesting.
It is.
But also, Murdaugh happily pleaded guilty to all his financial crimes.
I know. Yeah, I did see that too. That was interesting, but we knew he was going to do that. Yeah. I think that was the point the whole time, that at least in that state, you go where your first charges, where your first conviction is. And technically he doesn't have a conviction anymore. So I think he's going to do his time in federal.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter to me. Locked up is locked up. Yeah. Like it doesn't impact me any differently, whether you're locked up in a state jail or prison or a federal. It feels the same for everyone on the outside.
Yeah, and I get his conditions may be a little bit better, but he's still in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? Yeah. So, I mean, whatever. I don't see the huge deal in that. I know a lot of other people feel differently, and if you do, please tell me why in the comments below.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna keep my eyes on this because I think it's really, really interesting, and I want to know if it has anything to do with Becky or the Murdaugh trial. With considering he is getting a new trial.
Yep.
And
he is.
But I want to know why, like, I want to know why nothing happened to Becky. Did they not prove it enough to like actually do anything about her?
What do you mean? Isn't there still an investigation going on to that?
I don't know.
I need to look those details up. I don't remember.
We haven't been following it that closely.
Well, I don't think anything new has come out with Becky.
Well, she actually came out and made a statement.
Yeah. But I mean, they could be building a case, and this was just like one step along the line, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, could be. He was arrested by SLED, so
yeah.
Right. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below.
Yes. So my final update for this podcast, number 20, is Derek Chauvin from George Floyd, you know, the cop that was convicted. Derek Chauvin's the one who was literally leaning on his neck, right?
Yeah.
And
kneeling.
Kneeling and was convicted of his murder or negligence. I forget exactly what the details were, but anyways, he got like 20 years or something like that, and he's been spending it in federal prison in Arizona. And last week he got stabbed.
Really?
Yeah.
But by another inmate?
By another inmate. But it made me wonder, like, he's a cop. Boy, is he just in Gen Pop?
Oh,
it doesn't say anything about his population. All it says is that they're shorthanded right now, and security hasn't been what it should be, and he was stabbed, and no employees got hurt that worked for the prison, but they started doing life-saving, things on him, whatever, when it happened, and he's recovering now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could not be in Gen Pop and still get stabbed if, like...
I mean,
It's way harder, obviously, but what prison is he in? Is he in
Arizona? One of the Arizona. Yeah, it just says.
I'm just curious.
Arizona prison.
If he's in one that has a lot of like gang activity, which in Arizona I think it's very possible, you know, guards can be bought and paid.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But normally protective custody people are in a completely separate area. So sure, they would have to get a guard to let some kind of overlap happen. And it's possible, I don't know. It doesn't give any of those details on anything that I've read, other than it's his lawyer coming out and saying he's on the mend. He was stabbed and it was serious, and none of the prison workers got hurt. So, interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. If I was him, I don't know. I don't know if it's an ego thing, but like, you're a cop. I would PC up right away. For sure. 100%. There could be people in there that you helped put in there.
Yeah, that it would. Yeah, there. Yeah, for sure. And plus, you're a cop. Like, whether you put those people in there or not, you're still a cop.
And you're going to be a target no matter what.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That would be a very scary position to be in.
Agreed. But
and clearly, you should be afraid for a reason if you're a cop and you go to prison.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got stabbed for a reason. I mean,
I've always heard, I've never done prison time. I've always heard that they have special circumstances for people that need it, like not just PC, but additional housing as well. And I don't know if that just means you have your own cell. I don't know, but I would think that you can't just be in general population as a cop.
I wouldn't think so.
If you have more details around it, if you've been to federal prison, let us know.
All right. So next update, crime breaking news is, okay. So this is pretty disturbing. But this is body cam footage that I just ran across on the Daily Mail. It was posted November 25th, so just yesterday, of body cam footage of Jordan Rivera, who is a 19-year-old teenager in Florida. He had just gotten into a horrible car crash, like terrible. He's literally covered in blood. And the body cam footage is a police officer walking up. And as he's walking up to the scene, there is Jordan sitting on the sidewalk with a female officer, like, you know, telling him to sit down. She's got like her hands on his back. And then he like gets up, and then another cop is like, sit down, you know, sit down. And he goes and helps her get him back down sitting. And he's saying, I can't breathe. His nose is broken. And he's saying he can't breathe. And the cop's like, yeah, just breathe through your mouth. And he gets up again, and then he gets up again, and then he gets combative because all of the police officers, like when he gets up, are on him. Like there's like 3 or 4 of them that are on him. They're twisting his arm behind his back and stuff. And you can tell he's really out of it. Like he's bloody. He was just in a horrible car crash. Apparently he was driving on his way home from a fishing trip with like family, and they're like, he's out of it. He's hurt badly, and they're treating him like a criminal.
Yeah. I was sitting here thinking about that. Before they started this, did they have a reason for arrest? Because I don't think anything like that should happen. I don't think a cop should have touched him. Who cares if he's pacing? Who cares if he's standing up? Those are all things we're allowed to do as citizens.
I didn't even mention the horrible part. Like so they're twisting his arm behind his back, treating him like a criminal, and then he gets up, and they're doing that. And then they get him back down, and then he gets up again. And this time he kind of gets away from him just a little bit. and they're all on him, and he pushes two of the officers, and then the officer with the body cam on tases him. And when he falls, he hits his head on the sidewalk. His head literally bounces off the sidewalk, and he's just crying like the whole time this is going on. He is sobbing and crying and saying he can't breathe. And they officers jump on him right away as the guy's tasing him. He's down on his belly, and you know, I counted at least it's at least 4, if not 5 pulls of that trigger, which is a 5-second charge. Every time they pull that, it's 5 seconds. You know what the standard is? That if you go past 15 seconds of tasing, there's a greater chance of complications. Yeah. And this kid flatlined and was in a coma after this incident.
There's no regulations around tasers. We've covered multiple stories with that.
It's the recommendations, though, is that if you go
that's
longer,
not regulation.
If you go more than that, you're risking death.
Right.
And you're risking complications. And on top of that, like, there's police officers are supposed to take in account, like, I was looking all this stuff up, all the recommendations from the companies and stuff. You're supposed to take into account the seriousness of their offense, their current state, like the fact that he's injured is a major issue in this, and he's filing a lawsuit, which I think he should.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he should. I have a hard time looking at this because I see both sides of the coin here, where if you take away if you take away the whole scenario and just look from the point where he pushed a cop, he laid his hands on a cop, that justifies the taser. So, like, if I'm just looking at that, I get it. But then when you look at everything before, like, why did the cops let it escalate to that? I would want to know, was he suspected of breaking the law, and were they planning on charging him? Otherwise, who cares if he's sitting or standing? That is not a cop's decision to make. If I get in an accident and I want to stand up, shut your mouth. I'm going to stand up, otherwise do this to me and then I'll have a lawsuit against you. It's either you detain me or let me have my freedoms to stand, sit, walk, pace. You know what I mean? Just because he's standing up does not mean that he's running from them.
Right. And from all accounts, from what I have seen, and this is Monroe County Sheriff's deputies in Florida. That did this, that handled it in this way. But from all accounts, I have not heard, like, because I was thinking, was he drinking? Is this like a DUI incident? Is there anything added to it, like you were saying, where they thought he had committed a crime? Because in that instance, I understand it better.
Yeah.
Than just this innocent 19-year-old boy who gets in a car crash, and you're trying to force him to sit. Which think about getting in a car wreck and being injured. A lot of people would have this adrenaline, and he's delirious on top of it. Like, he may just need to stand up and walk.
Yeah.
Like, and I've done that. I have definitely paced after a car accident before, because it's all this increase of adrenaline and fear and what the hell just happened, or oops, what just happened, it's all of that. So, and he's young. Yeah. Has even been in a car crash before. What was going on in his head? Like, I need to know all those things. And if he was drinking, or if he wasn't suspected of a crime, this should not have happened.
I agree.
Period.
I agree.
I think that makes a really big difference in my mind. He's only 19.
Yep. I mean, to me, the age doesn't even matter at all. I don't care if you're 19.
No,
I don't
you're
care
right.
If
you're right.
90. Either you're arresting someone or you're not. And if you're not arresting them, then they have rights. And just because they aren't doing what you want them to do in that situation doesn't give you the right to treat them like that as an officer.
So this is horrific, but he had brain swelling. He was rushed to Mariners Hospital in Tavernier. But he needed an emergency tracheotomy. Okay.
Tracheotomy.
Tracheotomy. That's how you say it? Okay, thank you. And he also had to be resuscitated 2 to 3 times, is what it says. Like, he straight up flatlined and went into a coma and had to have a tracheotomy. Like, his life was in danger.
Yeah, because of what the cops did.
Because of what the cops did. But he was in the hospital for like 5 days, is what it says. But I think he has a serious suit on his hands here.
Yeah, because what initially started that's what I was going to say. If I just look at the assault on the officer, but then going back, like, where does it start? Because they would have to claim resisting arrest.
Yeah, you're right. They would
and
have
he
to.
Wasn't under arrest.
No, he was not. He did not have cuffs on. They were just telling him to sit, which I assume he was not suspected of a crime, telling him to sit was to keep him from standing up because he's hurt. Like, when you are hurt,
make it worse.
And then you make it worse.
Jeez.
That's what I'm assuming is he's got blood all over him. They don't want you standing up when you're hurt, but you don't force it like that.
Yeah.
You don't force it like that.
Yeah. I agree.
Because they were treating him like a criminal. But, I honestly, the body cam footage is really, really hard to watch. It's on the Daily Mail is really the only place I could find it. But it's just really sad. And if he was not suspected of, there was no crime, no suspicion of a crime. It says right here. I didn't see that part. It's at the end. But that's what it says in the lawsuit. Because they have the documents on here too.
Got it.
But he's gonna win. He's gonna win.
I agree.
And he should.
I agree.
But I want to know what you guys think. The recommendations around tasers, if they followed them, you would never see stuff like this. You would never see it because they're not supposed to use a taser like this. They're not supposed to pull the trigger 5 times. They're supposed to take into consideration de-escalating it. Can words work better than force? Is this person injured? How, like, all of these things, like, they're never supposed to do it with cuffs on.
Yeah.
All these things they're not supposed to do, yet we see it time and time again.
Yeah.
Because they're allowed that freedom.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, they shouldn't be.
No, I agree. I don't think they should be able to have those freedoms.
No, it should be very clear cut. This is when you can use a taser. This is when you cannot. And if you use it when you cannot, you're in trouble because you're literally risking somebody's life.
Yeah, I agree.
You're electrocuting somebody.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. So moving on to the last breaking news update is in the UK, killers, which are in this article, they're calling it kitchen knife killers, which are essentially people who, before their crime, are like abusive, domestically abusive. Okay. And basically they could face higher sentences, like more time in prison. As opposed to previously in the UK, and they're saying kitchen knife killers on purpose because
repeat offender.
No, not repeat offender. Kitchen knife killers are killers who, like, say you're in a relationship and you guys get in a fight and you grab the kitchen knife and kill your lover, kind of thing.
Okay.
As opposed to premeditating way ahead of time, and bringing your own weapon and all of that.
Okay.
So previously, if you brought your own weapon to the crime, you got more time. You got, the minimum was like 25 years. And in a kitchen knife or killing or passion of crime killing, like domestic abuse situation, those people got like 15 years minimum.
Yeah.
Now they are reforming that. And that is because of 2 mothers. The mother of Ellie Gold, there we go, and Poppy Devi Waterhouse, which were both killed by their lovers.
Okay.
They started a group called Killed Women to address what they saw as this issue. The fact that, you know, somebody just because they got the weapon at the crime scene and it was a crime of passion gets like way less time than somebody who premeditated the crime for like, you know, it could only be a day if you're bringing your weapon. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is the difference? At the end of the day, you still killed somebody. So why did they get more time because they brought their weapon and premeditated it a little bit longer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you agree or no?
I think there's more stipulations to it because what about situations where you get in a fight and you didn't mean to kill someone, you know? I think that's going to end up getting impacted in those situations. Otherwise, no, if you grab a weapon and you heinously end somebody's life, whether you brought the weapon or not, I think there should be significant time. I don't know if it should be the same as premeditated, though. Premeditated's different.
Okay, but people always get this conflated and confused. Premeditated can happen within a matter of seconds, according to the legal definition. Now, I know you don't agree with that.
No.
But how much time does there need to be for you to consider it premeditated then?
For somebody to plan it.
Okay, but premeditation really just means you had the intent. It's really about intent.
I get it, but then there needs to be an adjustment in the law because that includes too much. When I think somebody that plans a killing ahead of time is very different than somebody who loses control of their emotions in a situation.
Yeah, but you could like lose control of your emotions and I could like punch you in the head and you could like fall down, hit your head and die. And I didn't intend to kill you. I just intended to punch you in the head.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that is not premeditated.
Yeah.
Premeditated would be, for instance, that I knew that corner was there and bashed your head into it with the intention of killing you.
Yep.
So that's premeditated versus
I understand that's the legal definition.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's the same as somebody who knows somebody and for the last 24 hours has thought out how they're going to end this person.
So you think the difference is one person is way more dangerous than the other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
I do.
I think you have a point. There's a point there. But it seems like this, how they're trying to change this specifically applies to partners or killers who subjected their victims to coercive and controlling domestic abuse specifically.
Okay.
But I don't know if the law is going to be written that specific. And that's a good point the good question you bring up there. Is that going to affect more than just people in that kind of situation?
Yeah.
Because then it needs to be very specific.
Mm-hmm.
But Justice Secretary Alex Chalk has said a public consultation has now been launched. So it could happen, it could not, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that killers who domestically, like who abused their victims beforehand should get more time than one who didn't? Do you think that should add weight to the crime? And to the time?
No, I don't, but that's just a repeat offender. So, yes, if you're a repeat offender of aggressive crimes, then yes, you should get more. You didn't learn the first time. You have now proven that you are not learning from the systems and tools that we have to.
What if they were never arrested previously?
Then they won't have any weight in that.
Yeah, they could have evidence during the investigation and show that this person was abusing
then they should have been
partner.
Arrested previously.
No, I mean like when, say the girl gets killed, then cops go investigate and then after the murder find evidence that she was being abused all this time and then killed. Should that add time on?
I don't know. I just think that's a really rare situation.
I think it's a heavy weight on, you know, these mothers who lost their daughters to an abusive man who abused them for a while and then took their life, like, and then only got like 15 years in prison. Like, that would be really hard to face. Yeah. And I do feel like they deserve more time than 15 years.
I mean, if you can prove that.
If you can prove it, yeah. If you
the
can't,
abuse was
obviously
already there, I think that that could be premeditated then if you're doing things that cause harm.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I don't know. I want to know what you guys think. So leave it in the comments.
Yeah.
So I have an update here about Delphi. And that is the arrest of Mitchell Westerman, the man who admitted to stealing the documents from Andrew Baldwin's office. Richard Allen's defense attorney. We have his affidavit of probable cause, which I'm not going to read through since it's just an update, but it's interesting. I mean, it's a Class A misdemeanor, so
yeah,
he's probably gonna get a slap on the wrist. Like,
isn't that what's her face got?
Carly Russell.
Yep, Carly Russell. She got 2 Class A misdemeanors, if I'm remembering correct.
Yeah, it basically just outlines what happened. You know, it's a PCA, so it outlines what happened. But with him being somebody who was in the military, worked with Andrew Baldwin, and has worked in, you know, the legal system, while they may make an example out of him, but I feel like it's not going to be that big of a deal. And what is the purpose of charging him? Like, do you think that means anything?
Unless.
Do you think it had to be Andrew Baldwin pressing charges for this to happen?
No. Andrew Baldwin wouldn't be the one pressing charges.
It'd be the state.
Here. The state can choose to do that. Now, could they... Excuse me. Is there some kind of angle here where they're pressing Mitchell with charges to see if Andrew was really involved? Could it be a scare tactic? Because remember, what matters with charges, and this guy worked in the legal system, he knows what's going on. What matters with charges is if you get convicted. So are they just charging him and going to try and see if maybe there's more to this story and use the charge as leverage to find out more? You know what I mean? And I'm not going down conspiracy hole or anything. That this is a very common, very known tactic. So it just makes me wonder, what's the angle here?
Yeah, so this talks about how October 5th, the evidence had been released to the public and that the police officers were told, about it, October 5th. It says that they were made aware that it was obtained illegally, and it talks about Indiana State Police Sergeant Jerry Holman was able to identify the individual in Texas as Mark Robert Cohen. Cohen was interviewed, and he gave them screenshots of Robert Fortson, which is the man who unalived himself. Screenshots with that, you know, were from Robert to Mark. It talks about some of their conversations. I mean, not really in detail or anything. It just mentions them. And then it talks about them conducting interviews with Baldwin and Rozzi and Richard Allen's defense team on October 12th. They conducted an investigation, basically, and Baldwin said that he believed they were taken illegally. Monday, October 9th, Westerman contacted Baldwin around 4 p.m. and requested to meet with him.
Okay.
Interesting, right? This is the first we're hearing of that. Westerman told Baldwin that he had used his cellular phone to take photographs, which were in Baldwin's conference room area. The photographs depicted the crime scene related to the criminal charges against Allen. He had done this a couple months prior, and he had shared them with an individual named Robert Fortson. Through the course of the investigation, law enforcement learned that Fortson shared these photos with another individual, which was Mark Cohen.
Okay. Dots are getting connected here.
So Baldwin said he did believe, in fact, they were the crime scene photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he basically confirmed.
Yeah.
There would have been side-by-side photographs which were previously used by the defense team in depositions. So he said, based on the timeline, Baldwin said, based on the timeline and what we had going on in this war room, yes, this is the crime scene photos, and I know what was sitting there, basically.
Jeez.
These side-by-side photos.
Well, I mean, does that change the narrative at all? Does it matter if they were crime scene photos or if they were, a signature page at the end? In my opinion, it shouldn't matter. It's the same crime. The severity of, the reaction of what happened because they were crime scene photos is much more serious, but you're still doing the same thing.
Yeah. So they give his confession, which he basically just says that he was in there. Baldwin wasn't in the room. He observed the copies. He didn't get permission from Baldwin. Baldwin also said he didn't give him permission. He took pictures of them. And he is freely and voluntarily signing this affidavit. And that's pretty much it. Now, I don't really know what to think of it. I mean, I think that if he truly did this, which I think he did, he should be charged. Absolutely. I don't think that's okay. That's theft of active investigation, active court case that is being litigated. Like, clearly that's not okay to do that. These are two minors.
Yep.
This is like...
The stakes are huge here, and I think that is being taken into consideration, and that's probably part of the reason, because, in a situation like this, is this financially beneficial for the court to now charge him, or is the state potentially looking for a way to allow Baldwin and Rozzi back in, and by confirming they didn't have anything to do with this in this way, does this now allow them to no longer be grossly negligent?
Yeah, well...
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, grossly negligent has never been a standard for recusing or removing a lawyer from a case.
I hear you.
So it may be a way to do that.
Yeah.
But it's also... There's no legal precedent set with that previously to them.
No, I agree. Listen, in this whole case, I don't think there's a lot of legal precedent that's going on. We're seeing things that should never go on. There's things that are being done that are illegal. So, in a situation like this, do we see a judge, and I'm going tin hat here, do we see a judge which is coming out and saying, I have health issues, delaying stuff as long as she can go to make some backroom deal, and in order for her to allow them back in, is this charge going to be the green light for her to be like, hey, guys, I might have jumped the gun here. Now that I see the charges that are being brought against Mitchell, I can now reverse my previous statement that I don't believe you're grossly negligent. I don't believe that you're a problem for Richard Allen, and I believe I can let you back in. You know what I mean? Is she trying to reverse time here? Because the plan didn't work, and she's hoping, hey, let's just smooth all this over, and maybe my issues with the Supreme Court is going to be smoothed over too,
Yeah. So, what's interesting here? We have this article which gives Allen Superior Court's statement about Judge Gold's recent hospital stay. After feeling under the weather for several days, Judge Gold consulted with her physician on November 2nd, 2023. Her doctor concluded that she required treatment for an urgent medical condition. Highlight November 2nd, 2023, okay? Judge Gold was subsequently admitted to a Fort Wayne hospital for inpatient treatment for several days. Since then, she has been working from home in coordination with her Allen Superior Court colleagues. Her fellow criminal division judges are handling Judge Goal's court calendar temporarily until she returns to office, which she expects to be soon. That was November 2nd. Well, what was going on November 2nd? Okay, so November 2nd, we have filings right before that. So October 31st was the day all of that went down in court.
Yep.
So then we have 2 days later. So 2 days later, we have people digging up November 2nd, we have the Facebook being pointed out about the new lawyers, her following them on Facebook. We had a bunch of stuff getting exposed at this time. November 3rd is when it was official that she hired an attorney. So all of this was going on in the background. Like, we just got those filings November 3rd about her hiring an attorney. So guaranteed it probably happened the day before.
And then what's today's date?
November 24th.
Yeah, 24th. Okay. So I'm just curious.
And that
saying
just
that out
came
loud.
out a day ago.
Yeah.
That article.
I'm just curious to say it out loud for our viewers, because what I am guesstimating will happen next is something will come out somehow around Judge Goal, and it is going to be a healthcare reason that can change or alter behavior. That's what I think. I wonder if something is going to come out that's going to give the excuse of, well, of course, I wasn't in my right mind. I wasn't in my right mind. You know, a good thing to go to when you're making mistakes too, and again, I'm going tin hat here, but we've seen it before in the past, and that's why I'm bringing it up now, not saying it's happening now. But we've seen people that have made mistakes, and they claimed that they were an alcoholic or a drug addict, and that added to that behavior. And due to the, I forget the act right now. The Recovery Something Act of 1982 or 1987 or something like that says that there can't be any repercussions for somebody when they're trying to seek health care or fix themselves or whatever. So a lot of things have fallen through the cracks because of that. So I wonder if that's the direction we're seeing.
But isn't that interesting that since that all went down in court to basically now, it appears that Judge Goal has been working from home and getting help from her fellow judges handling everything, her job, her duties.
Yeah.
Literally literally recluse to home. Like, I'm just wondering, is this a real condition? Is it? I don't know. You know, she's already done some things that look super dirty, so it's hard for me to just assume this is honest and not ask, is it really honest?
Yeah. Is this a way to be honest about the dishonest decisions? You know what I mean? Again, going back to something like alcoholism or drug addiction, something or an antidepressant, that a mood stabilizer, something that can change your mood and alter your behavior in a way that can make you make decisions that you wouldn't normally make. You know what I mean? And I think it's a fair question to ask without being considered, you know, going full tin hat, full conspiracy here. I think it's a fair question to ask based on everything that we've seen coming from Judge Goal.
I mean, her whole thing, you know, with having the cameras there, reading off this statement, it was extremely highly manipulative, which is another thing. We got the transcripts of what went down in her chambers with Rozzy and Baldwin and McClelland, and it does not look good.
Yeah.
It looks, it's literally exactly what Rosie It's what he described. And, you know, McClelland, which is another thing I want to talk about real quick, and then we're going to move on, is the fact that McClelland was given the ability to build a case against Baldwin and Rosie without them having any idea, no ability to refute his evidence. There was no evidentiary hearing. That is messed up to have the police who investigated this crime and put it on Richard Allen, says that he's the guy, and have them, along with the prosecutor, after they just filed this Franks memorandum, be the ones to investigate and get them removed, essentially.
Yeah, well, and for anyone watching, we'll do our Idaho 4 topics tonight, and then we'll do the Delphi updates tomorrow when we're recording the rest of this, and we'll really dig into those topics for, you know, a case update on each. But I agree with you. I think there is wild stuff going on here.
It is
wild. And then when you see confirmed manipulative or abuse of power decisions that were made by a judge, to think that those couldn't continue here, I think that's illogical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people that are blue blood, hardcore, have faith in the justice system blindly, no matter what, might look at that and think, she's not doing that. She's a judge. Come on. I mean, yeah, she's a judge. Come on. Look at her decisions that she's already made. Are we really to think that this couldn't be done further in this way?
And it's not impossible to have a dirty judge. Like, that is not impossible. She's a human being.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
Wild stuff.
It is. But let us know what you think. And if you've noted, there's so many filings on this coming out regularly. There's always new little bits of information. We're always interested to hear your input and if you found anything interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so for my video, or my case, I said video because I'm actually covering a video. We haven't covered other videos before. That's not really something we've done except for on our live stream. But tonight, it is something that you just did, and then I also originally planned on doing it for the first time. So I wanted to talk directly about character analysis. So she has a channel. She's good. I've liked quite a few videos that she's done.
She's done some incredible videos.
Yep. And there was a new video that came out that, and it'll have to go across the screen because I didn't write it down and I'm shooting with my phone. But she got her hands on a 2015 application of Bryan Kohberger's, and apparently he was applying for a courier job or janitor job. And what was interesting is, for whatever reason, she used this job application to compare against the 4chan post, trying to make connections that she believes 4chan was Bryan Kohberger. And then there was also this post that was brought up that some new post I've never heard of before, and it talks about just some really brutal stuff. Honestly, I'm not going to say what it talked about. Just something done to one of the victims in the house. It only talked about one of them. It didn't talk about all four of them. And it talked from a first-person perspective. And she talked about that in comparison to the 4chan posts, which, mind you, the 4chan posts are done from an outside perspective, talking about potential people that did the crime. So I think there's a little bit of bias going on there, which that's okay. There's no such thing as a human being that doesn't have bias. And this isn't a video calling her out. I would never do that about any other creator out there, put down their content or call them out or anything like that. I'm glad she did the video. This is a ton of information I had no idea about. I didn't know, and I learned a lot from it. I just wanted to speak directly on on that because I feel like it's important in a situation where we're dealing with this crime, right? Bryan Kohberger, the criminologist that was going for his doctorate that did these crimes, to have the opposite side of the coin here. So a couple things that she pulled out is the reason why she was trying to connect the 4chan post to this application is there were a couple things that she thought made it to where the writer could have been the same person. So one of the funny things is she said whilst. So apparently in Bryan Kohberger's application, he used the term whilst. And the 4chan writer somewhere in there did too. I didn't have time to go back and verify which one exactly she took it from. Maybe I'll post it on the screen here. But I'll have to go back and check that. And she says specifically, this is a British term, which is interesting because I've used this term multiple times.
Especially in writing. I have too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a British term. Maybe it originated from there. I don't know. I didn't even Google the word to see where it originates from or anything like that. But to make a connection via word to word is just interesting. And the way that she was trying to show, like, well, you know, somebody that wasn't trying to insert this word almost in a British way would just put while. Now, I wrote down what he said here, and without getting into the details, because I'm not going to post the document or take any content from her, she in the video, which you guys should watch, and I will link that video in this one, but she says that, or in the application it says, I did this thing whilst at this other place. And he's talking about a job and school where an American person would have just used while at. And I personally look at that and think I would have used whilst, because I think the correct sentence would have been while still at this school.
So it's like a combination while still, yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's missing that point in that video. She's assuming whilst is a different way of saying while, but it's not. Whilst is the combination of while still.
Yep.
So,
it just sounded correct, I guess.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but, that stood out to me, and then she goes into some of the other verbiage in the 4chan post, and what was interesting in those is, if I had to guess, I think she's an academically trained person.
Yeah.
Focusing on character analysis. She likes the, intelligent, in-depth conversation around crime and criminology in general, and these specific topics around character and writing clearly, which is amazing, and I'm glad she did it. But I think she's missing a very key element here. All right. So she says a couple things that fresher, Mads, and the C word, C-U-N, and I'm not going to finish it. You guys get it. Are British ways of speaking. I'm assuming here, so don't hate me. This isn't shots fired or anything. I don't think she spent a lot of time in a hood or kicking it with the homies. Where nicknames come from, like, that is an inherent characteristic of that lifestyle. Our nicknames, the C word gets thrown around a lot, and I think that might be where the disconnect is there.
Okay, you have a point, but also, even if they were British ways of speaking, how does that point towards Kohberger?
I mean, she thinks that that possibly Kohberger could be trying to throw people off by using these. And the whilst on his original application was the connection, the link between the two.
Okay. I don't see the connection, because if he's trying to throw people off by using British terminology, then him using whilst in an application actually points against that, because that means he uses that terminology in his regular life.
I hear you, and I agree. And what's interesting is that 2015 application where he uses the word whilst, Kohberger's not from England.
No, he's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
I've born and raised American
all the time.
I have to.
When I'm replacing while still and I'm writing in a way that it's going to be read.
Yeah, like you want it to, sound good.
Yeah. You want it to sound, professional. Yeah, like you know what you're doing and everything, which again, I think a very important thing to remember when I was watching that video, when I was watching it, I was like, oh man, I feel like there were a couple really key points that needed to be talked about. He's writing an application, okay? So it is already going to be inflated conversation. And one of the things she points out too is that he uses I a lot, which what's interesting is, you guys, I've hired hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people, managed hundreds of people, and that was part of my job and title. And when I'm hiring people, I'm specifically looking for people to be able that have the confidence to talk directly about themselves in this way. So I personally don't think saying I a lot means you're a sociopath or there's anything, interesting standing out there, but she did.
It's a job application where all you're doing is talking about yourself.
Yeah.
So why would you say anything else?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I think that was part of the reason why I wanted to speak about it a little bit, just because I don't. Clearly, she believes he's guilty, okay?
Yeah.
Which, again, I think everybody is biased. Everybody is. That doesn't make somebody not intelligent, not logical, not a good content creator, not anything, and literally any of those things. But when I see areas of opportunity where I can point out the flip side not being shared, from a good point of view, I want to be able to do that for viewers. Just because I found it interesting and I felt like it made sense watching her video. Like, hey, she probably hasn't kicked it in the hood before. She probably hasn't been in those grimy areas. She probably hasn't hung out with criminals before. Or fraternities, which, like, that ghetto lifestyle has been cool for like the last 2 decades.
It's trendy.
Dude.
People listen to rap music
from the 90s.
Yeah,
literally from the 90s,
right.
when NWA started coming out, and it just continued and got bigger and bigger and bigger
Biggie
and bigger
Smalls,
and bigger.
Tupac.
Yes, and it's just grown from there. So if I would see words like this anywhere, it would be from a fraternity. An all-male, kicking it with the boys, drinking, hanging out, and that's where I would expect to see it.
Also, how would you expect Kohberger to have intimate knowledge of the friendships and dynamics within that fraternity?
Yeah.
How would he have that knowledge?
I don't know. It's a stretch, in my opinion. But, again, when you're looking at something from a personally biased angle, you find reasons, whether it's intentional or not, you find reasons to make things connect, not trying to make things not connect. And I'm just a different person, and part of all my careers has been problem solving, literally, has always been solving problems. So I think I try to inherently come from a place of find the problems, not make it connect in these situations. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking for reasons that back my story. I'm looking at my opinion and trying to find reasons that it doesn't. back my story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm able to see these things in this way, where not everybody would, because they're looking for things that make their story more firm, hold more water, stand on its own two legs, hold bias. More weight. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I think it's beneficial in a lot of situations to look for things that don't support your theory.
Yeah, so I mean...
Constantly try and disprove yourself.
I agree with you. I respect character analysis a lot. I've appreciated a lot of her content, and I just hope this is helpful to help her look more objectively at it, because I think she has like kind of a scientific mind.
Yeah.
And objectivity is extremely important when you're looking at something more in a scientific way,
Yeah.
Objectivity is literally the most important. Once you're subjective, it is no longer science.
Yep.
So I hope it's just helpful to have like a contrary perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think everything that I read in the 4chan, which, she's giving a good outline of where some people might think and the angle they might come from. So I'll be sure to include some of that in the next fraternity video, because I like to create videos out there that is focusing on why other people would think this wouldn't be true. And that's kind of my goal. But, I loved her video. It was a great video. I think that information she got about the application was phenomenal. And I would love to know what you guys think about it. So let us know.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be making a response video, which was suggested by one of our amazing viewers, Ian Kinzel. To Law and Crime Sidebar Podcast with Jesse Weber's recent video that is the 5 most damning pieces of evidence against Bryan Kohberger. Now, I will say they did not list 5. They listed 4, with kind of a 5th that is unknown evidence. The 5th is more like, could there be bombshells released in trial from like search warrants and stuff like that? And
that
it's
was like, number 5,
basically, but they didn't call it number 5. Not really.
So they
it was 4. It was 4. It was I am just saying the 5th is unknown, because I was like, wait, where's number 5? And at the end of the show, they were talking about like unknown bombshells to come. And this was basically a conversation between Brian Inton and Jesse Weber about the evidence. He said Brian Inton is got to know the evidence better than anybody because he's been covering it since the beginning. Yeah, he's been reporting on it. Has he been digging into each thing other than just looking at the court documents and taking it all at face value? I don't know that he has. But I will say that he said a few interesting things. So, number 1, the DNA, which we've dug a ton into the DNA. Law and Crime also did a really interesting interview with Andrea Burkhart recently, and I was cheering her on the whole time. I love Andrea Burkhart, and she hit all the important notes that I feel like you need to hit. The fact that it doesn't explain how it got there. The fact that it's such a tiny, minute amount. The fact that we just don't know enough. It's trace DNA.
Yeah, and people need to know the difference. And I feel
not
like
blood.
Anybody that is dead set on the DNA just doesn't understand the difference. There are a lot of really, really, really smart people out there, and I don't want to put anyone down. I just want to use myself as an example that before this case and before we started covering true crime, if you would have came to me and said, hey, his DNA is on the scene, I would have right away been like, it's a done deal. He did it. Yeah. The only reason I have changed my mind, the only reason is because of this case and because of the evidence and the research we've done into it.
And I really think it's important to highlight the TED Talk that I just recently talked about on last episode of a DNA expert coming out saying the way they match DNA profiles is pretty subjective, not objective, meaning there's a lot of room for error. There's a lot of room for bias. It is not blind testing where they don't know anything about the case or the suspect. They have influence from investigators on, you know, deciding if it's a match or not.
Yeah.
Which I think is a problem.
Yeah.
But they bring up the fact that they think the defense could potentially use the defense that it's a party house. And of course, Bryan was there at one point. He partied there this one time, and the defense could take that angle. I don't think that's going to happen, but I guess it could be a possibility.
I don't think they're going to take that angle. I think they're going to take the angle that
he doesn't know them at all.
No, that it's a party house. So why is there only one DNA profile?
Right. Why didn't these other three?
Wait, are your cops incompetent? Did they only find DNA at this one spot when it's a party house? And I can show you tons of videos with hundreds of people there.
And there's 3 others that you guys have failed to identify.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow, with this tiny, minute amount of Bryan Kohberger's DNA, matched a profile, but you can't do that for the other 3?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
They keep leaning on this idea that, well, it's because of the placement and where it was,
it was
in the
on
button
the knife
snap.
sheath.
But the thing is, was the snap open? Because if it was open, that was enough DNA that it could literally float through the air and land on something. So,
well, I don't even know if it is a match. Like, I am at the point of doing enough research that I think there could be enough subjectivity here that it could not even be his DNA at all.
Yeah, I don't know about all that.
I think it's a possibility. It could be within the same... I think
anything's a possibility.
I think it could be within the same ancestry, but maybe not his. I don't know.
Yeah, but he doesn't have any other family in that area. So
well,
that's just a straight up lie then. And I don't see them just straight up lying. It's his DNA.
Do you think there's a possibility it could be planted evidence?
I don't know. I have no clue.
I don't know. With what I was looking into with the subjectivity of reading a DNA sample, I don't know. I just don't know. I think that to know for sure, we have to see it in court. Yeah. We have to see the defense's experts and the state's experts go head to head on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, number 2, cell phone pings. So, Bryan Itten said this. BK pinged near the crime scene multiple times around the time of the murders. Went away, came back, left a knife. Did he come back because there was a knife sheath there? And I felt like that was kind of disingenuous. He did not ping around the murder scene at the time of the murders at all, which Jesse Weber goes on to clear up and says the actual timeline that we know of, you know, that it turned off in Pullman at like 3 a.m. and then turned back on at 5:30 a.m. With 12 pings around supposedly the crime scene before the murders over like the preceding months.
Yeah.
We have also dug a lot into the cell phone tower pings, and I have another topic coming up after this talking about basically Bryan Kohberger's journey after the crime and some claims made by Court TV about that, because they really were the go-getters who mapped that out for the public and like determined some of these things that we now know.
Mm-hmm.
Or think we know. So I'll dig more into that later after this. But the thing is with the cell phone pings, I feel like we've determined that there's enough, unless they have geolocation data, that there's enough room for error with the cell phone pings. They can't triangulate him to a specific point. So I think he could be anywhere in the strip of Moscow, by the college, eating at a restaurant, and they could claim he was near the home.
Yeah.
Because it's such a generalized area.
Yep.
So I think that they say the biggest deal is the fact that his phone was off during the time of the murders. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that it brings up big question marks.
It does. It does. But over the course of those 2 days, you realize his phone went off or wasn't attached to a cell phone tower, was in airplane mode, something like that, like 2 more times over the course of those 2 days. Where it was off for hours and they didn't know where he was. Unless they have some kind of surveillance footage.
Interesting.
2 more times when he was out driving around. That makes me question, is the service so bad in Moscow and the surrounding areas that sometimes your phone doesn't have service?
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean anything. He was out driving that night. We have no idea where he was during that time. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Possible.
It's possible. So number 3, which I will say one more thing. They made a good point that if witnesses can come out during the defense of Kohberger saying that is a normal behavior for him, that could add a lot of weight to the alibi. But number 3 is the car. Brian Itton mentions that it's important because it was seen around the home by surveillance around the time of the murders. Surveillance footage.
Yep.
Do you think it's weird that when they announced that they were looking for the white Elantra, that they didn't show any pictures of it? Like even a single picture. Like from any camera. CCTV. Is that odd?
Maybe. Maybe
not.
Yeah.
They didn't even show a stock photo. Do you think that's because it was a range?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's odd. But it is supposedly seen passing the home 4 times between 3:30 a.m. and 4:04 a.m. and then speeding away 16 minutes after, like at like 4:20 a.m. it speeds away. And then the Washington State officer said he found it in the Steptoe apartments where Brian Kohberger lived, and it was matched to him, blah, blah, blah. We know the rest. Now, after the murders, they brought this up, which is what I'm going to go more into later, that he was spotted that day later after the murders at an Albertsons in Lewiston and Clarkston, that area. And that there was footage from inside the grocery store, him shopping and checking out. And they really were like, what was he buying? I'm really curious what he's buying.
I mean, Albertsons, just food?
Does Albertsons carry any like home equipment? Like would they have shovels or rope or, you know?
I mean, maybe, but Albertsons is a grocery store.
Like what if he was checking out?
It's a California grocery store.
Yeah, it is. You're right. So what could it be, just cleaning agents? Like that would be pretty trippy if he was checking out it with just cleaning agents. And I would be like, whoa, that's weird.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't know why that's such a big deal, the Albertsons.
But the cleaning agents, they didn't find anything in the car.
They didn't.
I mean, even if it was cleaning agents, what to clean what?
I'm curious if they can detect hydrogen peroxide after the fact. Like, could they test for that? Because hydrogen peroxide is one of the best things for blood.
Yeah, they can test for that.
They can?
For sure. Guaranteed. And I think hydrogen peroxide, when left on stuff, bleaches it.
Yeah. Well, no. Because you can use it on clothes. It doesn't bleach clothes.
You put peroxide in someone's hair and it lightens it. It pulls color out.
Yeah, but don't you have to sit in the sun? Doesn't it just accelerate sun washing? Yeah, I don't remember either. But Anyway, moving on from the car is number 4, which is the surviving witness, Dylan. And we all know that story. They both were talking about how it was super unfair, all the criticism she's gotten, and questioning, did she know this guy that she saw was the killer, or did she think it was just like some creepy looking guy and she was drunk or half asleep and passed back out? Which Bryan Hinton said he believes is the more likely scenario, which is the scenario I've been running that I think it is too, is that she was drunk and misinterpreted things. But Bryan Hinton, he's asked, basically they're talking about, is she going to testify? Will the state say, we're not calling her to testify because she is going through it? She's got survivor's guilt. We don't want to do that to her. The defense is going to really question her hard. She is, a victim. Should we not call her to testify? And Bryan Hinton's like, he's like, no, I think they're going to call her to testify.
Yeah.
Okay, she's got survivor's guilt and she's going through it, obviously, but no one has said from the people he's talked to that she can't speak because she's so, you know what I mean? Having so many issues and difficulties that she can't talk.
Yeah, court doesn't care about that.
No, they shouldn't.
No.
If you're a witness to a crime, I feel like it's your duty to speak.
That's
on what you saw.
Those are problems for your therapist.
Exactly. But he said he felt like that was all being overplayed. Like the fact that she's going through it so much, people, because at first they're saying that it's gross that people are harshly criticizing her. And then I feel like Hinton's but at the same time, it's being overplayed that she's going through it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's these people who are over sympathizing and these people who are being too harsh.
Yeah.
And I feel very similarly.
Yeah.
And it's all because it's led by feelings. And we should try to take that out of it. As hard as that can be when we're looking for the truth, we should really take feeling out of that. Which is, I don't have a bad thing to say about Dylan. I think that if you're being reasonable and looking into the case, you should just have questions there. What is going on with that situation?
Yeah.
But that is their four hardest hitting evidence that we know this far, the most damning pieces of evidence. And honestly, I feel like the one that is the most damning is the DNA, which is why the defense is going at it so hard.
Yeah.
And with the IgG, if it's proven to be if there's an issue there, okay, if they find an issue within the investigation of it, okay, within them obtaining a match, it's fruit of the poisonous tree after that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of reasons that the DNA is the focus. It's another big deal that they're not showing their work. It's basic law that if there's evidence against you, okay, you have to show why. You have to. You're not allowed to just say, basically the way they're presenting the DNA is saying, hey, this is my opinion and I'm not going to show you why, but you need to take it as scientific fact just because I say so.
Right. That is what they're doing. And that's not okay. And it's honestly been the same. I'm just really curious. The defense hasn't really asked for more information on the car, which I find curious. Does that mean that the footage is that good that there is no more to ask for?
I don't know. We're not in the trial, so I don't know.
Because that's one question mark I have. If they said, oh, we connected all these dots and no, he was here at this time and here at this time, but I'm not seeing the proof of it. And I'm like, that doesn't really look like Brian's car. That's not Bryan. I would be asking for more.
Yeah.
So it almost makes me wonder, is it actually that good? And we just have no idea because there's a gag order.
You wouldn't lean on the car to get the case thrown out. Even if it's a awful picture, it's not going to do anything. So there's just no point to focus on that when the DNA is the one that is the biggest piece.
I feel like it is the singular biggest piece of this case that could get him convicted or exonerated.
Yeah.
For sure. And there's just a lot of holes there.
Yeah.
I'm really curious if the defense is going to claim it was planted or not. Or at least throw out that doubt that it could have been.
Yeah.
Because I want to know what happened with those.
I don't think that's a good angle.
You don't?
No.
But what about Ann Taylor requesting the training records?
Yeah, for incompetence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you think she's just going to pose that doubt out there that these cops are extremely incompetent?
Yeah.
They have, like, I wonder if she's just
stacking
up all these holes in the case and going to present all of the holes where they missed things and be like, look at how awful of a job they did investigating this crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think the trial is going to happen 2024. I really hope that it does so we can have some answers and the families can have answers and, you know, move on with their lives. But I want to know what you think the most damning piece of evidence is against Bryan Kohberger, or if there even is one. Leave it in the comments.
I have seen multiple videos and multiple comments about this topic that we're going to be talking about. And just because we're doing a shorter podcast, I'm going to keep it super short. So not much conversation on it, just kind of going through exactly what it is. So somebody suggested that I look at a video talking about how some app or something on somebody's phone can give somebody's location, even when airplane mode is on, even when the phone's turned off or whatever. And I think what a lot of people are talking about right now is the accelerometer that's in a phone or the GPS chip. I think people are just misunderstanding kind of how phones operating systems work and how those two pieces function. Because when you have a phone, most people are thinking that this device has one function, and that function is connecting with your wireless provider, and that wireless provider can give you data coming into the phone and what it's doing, right? So when somebody puts a video out there and they're like, oh yeah, your phone can tell where you are because it can track where you're walking and things like that, people are automatically making the connection that data is being sent to like the wireless provider. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. The accelerometer is a part of the phone. Okay. It has absolutely nothing to do with your wireless provider. The GPS chip is part of the phone. It has absolutely nothing to do with your wireless provider. So when you're on an application like Maps, when you're on Google Maps, when you're on Google Earth, when you're on Google in general, when you're on any of these applications, you cannot call up your wireless provider and say, hey, I need the geolocation or trilateration data for these applications off my phone. They don't have anything to do with that. All they have to do with is the SIM card in your phone that's giving you connection. So like, here's another example. If you took your phone and you popped out the SIM card, you can still make calls on an Apple phone as long as you're connected to a data source.
Right.
Yeah. So it doesn't have anything to do with the wireless service whatsoever. So what specifically the videos are that are coming out right now is around the accelerometer. So there's this little chip that's in your phone that is hyper sensitive to the movement of your body. You can download workout apps where you're doing this punching thing or whatever, and your phone's in your hand. It's the same way that it tracks your steps. It's the same way that it tracks you jumping, going upstairs, running, walking, all these things. It is a very, very, very sensitive sensor in your device. And there's this theory right now that they can tell where Bryan Kohberger was with that. Not true. Not true. Not true. Not true at all. If that were the case, we would have the cast report, the FBI, we would have all these cases coming out and focusing on that information specifically. I don't know about you guys, but I can't find one. The Karen Reed case.
I was going to say Karen Reed.
Yeah, but it's not in the case. And the defense, Karen Reed's attorneys want that information brought into the case, but because it's unreliable, and it says that he walked up flights of stairs, which that house has flights of stairs in it, the exact number of steps that match that house. Court will not let it in. It is not evidence that is sound. It is not evidence that's reliable. It is not evidence that they're willing to put into play here. So I think that alone can be put to bed. That alone can be put to bed. But people want to hyper focus on the phone. And we've said this a million times. Look, I'm not out here trying to prove Bryan Kohberger's innocence. I'm out here trying to prove whether we have a justice system that can be believed in there or we don't. And there is a way they can track his phone. It is not through the accelerometer. And, you know, maybe I will do a premiere on this video and we'll really dig into those details and I'll walk you guys through it and everything. There was another comment out there where somebody had said something along the lines of a content creator said that you can't turn the locations off on your phones and things like that. Whoever that is, that's just a lack of experience. I would assume that that's a tin hat person that wants to believe that you're being tracked at all times, no matter what. There's nothing you can do about it, and that's just simply not true. I can turn all of that stuff off. Now, can the GPS... If we pop the SIM card out of our phone, took it out, right? So we have no wireless service. You will not get cell signal on your phone. And then walked around, can it track you? Absolutely. But that's because it is through the manufacturer's software that's in your phone using the GPS chip and the Bluetooth and the data connection. So there are ways to do that, but none of those override the fact that Bryan Kohberger's phone was turned off.
Well, we don't know. It just wasn't connecting to a data source. So it could be in airplane mode, it could be off, or it could just be not connected to a tower. He could have not had cell phone service.
Yeah.
That's as clear as it's gotten so far with the information that we have.
I mean, doesn't it say it was turned off?
In the PCA?
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure it says it was turned off.
I think you're
in
right.
the PCA, but
that could be an argument from the police officers to be like, look, it looks shady. He turned it off. No, it just wasn't connecting to signal is what I think is determined within the PCA. When they talk about it, you realize that it's really just verbiage.
Okay.
Because it wasn't connecting to a data source, and they're assuming he turned it off because that looks shady, turning it off. It just not connecting to a tower doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess. I just have a hard time between the difference of something looking shady, because like in a court of law, what does that really mean to look shady? You either have evidence or you don't. I don't care what it looks like. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Can I ask you a question, though? So we did a whole video on GPS. So is that the only way that really could hold up in court that they could track somebody is using, especially if they're not connected to a tower? Because we know that geolocation is the best way to track somebody, which is the combination between cell tower data and GPS locating and
no, triangulation is the best.
So cell phone tower triangulation is the best.
Absolutely.
Gold standard.
Yeah, better than GPS, better than anything. Yeah.
But that's if there's enough towers. So if there's not enough towers, what is the best way to track him?
If there's not enough towers, then your only option is GPS.
And cell phone tower data could just be supporting, support that, all of these combined?
No, cell phone tower data is separate than GPS. So cell phone tower data is through your network provider. GPS is through your manufacturer of your phone.
That's a good clarification for the viewer, but I understand that. What I'm asking is they check each other. You know what I mean? So the cell phone towers are saying he's within this range, and then the GPS is saying he's here. So we can really just determine he is in this area using these two data sources.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you just don't need to.
Okay.
If you have one, if you have enough to do triangulation with cell tower data, then that means you're pinpointed enough with the 3 or 4 towers that they can tell where you're at. And just for people watching, it is so uncommon to not have triangulation data. So rare. This is an oddity to not have triangulation data. And you don't even have to be in a metro city to get triangulation data. You can be in a city that has 10,000 people and get proper triangulation data. Not Moscow that has, less than 5,000 people when school's not in.
Yeah.
So this idea of I'm glad people are interested in cell phones. I'm really glad people are out there talking about it, because it's something that people just don't understand. They don't understand the difference between the hardware. They don't understand the software. They don't understand what is controlled, managed, and ran by the network provider, your Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile's, US Cellular, and the differences between the manufacturer's applications. They don't understand the difference between the iOS applications and data versus the Android applications and data. People are missing a lot of these things, and because they don't understand it, it's really easy to go tin hat and be like, oh yeah, because this is what's going on, it can track everything all the time. And that's just not true. That's just not true. You can absolutely turn off your location data. You can absolutely make sure that your phone's not tracking you. You can absolutely turn off that steps and healthcare thing. Not to mention, if you're super worried about it, you can delete all the history of it. And there's only 2 places that phone data can be stored. It's either going to be stored on your phone or in your cloud, and that is it. It doesn't go anywhere else. It's not like they can just call up some company and be like, hey, yo, I need all the information from this phone for this person. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So if you don't have your iCloud auto backup on, then that data isn't going anywhere online. It's going to stay on your phone. And if you don't want anyone to have it on your phone, you make sure you delete it from your phone. There's a lot of different things that you can do. I just wanted to clarify it for the viewers that this is not a good thing to look into. There isn't anything there. Not that it's not a good thing to look into. This isn't going to give the case the break that we hope that it will. If anything's going to give it the break around the cell phone data, it's going to be the apps. It is going to be getting a hold of Bryan Kohberger's phone. It is going to be finding out what applications he had on there. And then it is going to be reaching out to those applications, the company themselves. So let's use Spotify, okay? If that was one of the apps, the most used apps on his phone, okay? And I'm sure they broke into his phone, with his help or without his help, whatever. And they looked at what his most used apps were, or the apps that were being used during the night of the murder, and then reached out to that company. They should be able to get some sort of a semblance of GPS data, location data from them. So everyone has wondered, you know, why they're asking for these apps. More than likely, they're asking for those apps because they were used during that time.
Right, right.
So
yeah, and there's several of them. There's many of them. You know, they were just search warrants. They were just warrants to get the data. We don't know if they found anything or not.
yeah.
But that'll come out in court and we'll see. But I think that's a good clarification. I really do, because I don't understand it myself. And I definitely fall victim to, like, when someone says things like that really convincingly, like they've done a ton of research and they know what they're talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, like that sounds like it makes sense. And then you have a lot of people thinking that.
Yeah.
You know, which it's no fault of theirs. They think they know what they're talking about, of course, or else they wouldn't come out and say it normally. But, you know, it's the difference between someone having a ton of experience, like real life experience working in the field and an expertise in it, and someone who just did a lot of Googling.
You know how many,
you know what I mean?
You know how many customers I've had to reach out to that, like, started at store level, went to the manager, came to me, and I had to call customers back, and these customers are like, you know, I need to complain. I'm going to take it. I'm going to sue you guys because my phone is hacked. It can tell what I'm doing at all times. It can tell where I'm at all times. You need to fix this. You need to give me free service for a year. You need to do all this stuff and whatever. And I can't tell you how many different times I've had to reach out to customers to be like, all right, look, I hope you have an hour free. It's going to take about an hour for me to walk you through all of this stuff and tell you exactly how. That's not true what you're saying. We'll walk through all your settings one by one, and I'll walk you through everything that you want to know. From top to bottom, and let you know exactly what's tracking you, what's not, how it's tracking you, how you can verify. This isn't some magic weapon that can do everything and knows where you're at and everything you're doing at all times. You know, there's software in these phones that freaks people out, because if you have your phone out and let's say, you know, hey, I love Parmesan goldfish, you know what I mean? And then you open up Google to go search something, and it's talking about like, hey, get 5 bags of Parmesan goldfish at 20% off. You know what I mean? There's nothing spooky to that. There's not a person on the other end like, oh, they want Parmesan goldfish, better pop this bad boy in there. No, it's just picking up the terminology of Parmesan goldfish, and then it does a background search to see if there's anything relevant out there on the internet, and it automatically puts it on there. It's not data somebody's going to get access to. And even if they did, like, what does it matter? So you know that I like Parmesan goldfish.
Well,
you know
and if
it's
really a problem, you just turn off Siri. Siri is really the culprit, that it's always listening for that prompt, just like Alexa. If you turn those things off,
it'll do it anyway. It's built
even if you
into
turn
the
Siri off.
Yeah. Your phone's always listening. There's no way to turn off a microphone. So, like, that's one thing that.
You can't turn off your mic?
No, you can unplug it. Like hackers that do not want any possibility of being tracked, or you know, those government systems that can track what people are doing, listening, whatever, and you're a hacker, you're doing illegal things. They open up their phones and unplug the microphone, and then only gain access to the mic using headphones, so that when the headphones are unplugged, the phone truly doesn't have any microphone turned on. But yeah, it's a microphone. Even these microphones here, when they're not on, they're still acting as a microphone. It just depends on if there's any output. Like, where's it going? If I have it unplugged, then it's going nowhere. But a microphone is still a microphone, picking up sound reverberation and everything. So
you did not help with feeling like you're always being listened to.
I mean, yeah.
It just is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, you can turn off the settings in those applications to not do that.
Can your phone always listening then be used in a court of law to convict you?
No. If they had a warrant and they had you tapped, yes. If they don't, no.
So it can only be if you're tapped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
But yeah, let me know what you guys think. That's all I got for you. And then we'll do a follow-up on this topic.
Yeah, for sure. You should. You should. It's really interesting. All right. So, Kohberger's journey after the crime. So, I just heard somebody make the claim online that Kohberger took like it was like an 1.5 to 2 hour trip to Johnson, Idaho the day after the murders. And I was like, wait, what? Why have I never heard that? That he drove east like 2 hours away, because it's not true. It's literally not true. So where did this claim come from? The claim comes from the PCA, where they talk about the cell phone pings when Kohberger made the trip down south to Lewiston and Clarkson.
Okay.
Okay. That's where it comes from. So I'm just going to take you through the journey really quick so then we can talk about it. November 13th, 9:12 a.m. is when Kohberger pings by the home, supposedly, and stays there for 10 minutes. Okay. 9:12 a.m. Stays for 10 minutes. Then his cell phone shows moving south from Pullman towards Lewiston.
Wait, that's the day after the crime?
It's the same day. It's November 13th.
Yeah, yeah. But his phone never disconnected from the Pullman tower.
What are you talking about?
His phone never disconnected from the Pullman tower.
I didn't say it disconnected.
Oh, okay. So wait, say that one more time. Because he wasn't at 1122. He was connected to the Pullman tower the entire time, and the Pullman tower doesn't go to 1122.
Okay.
Oh.
Good. Great. I never said he disconnected from anything.
Oh, okay.
You're jumping ahead.
Oh.
Because of what I said earlier, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
That's just what I've noticed, that's that 12th ping that they try using,
13th.
But it never
13th.
It in their data, according to them, his phone was connected to the Pullman tower, and they're saying that he was at 1122.
Yeah.
But the Pullman tower doesn't go to 1122.
Right. Yeah. So then his phone is moving south of Pullman, which I think he went home after that, because it shows,
according to them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I don't think that's true at all. I think that is a mistake, because
I don't think he ever went over to Moscow that day. I truly do not. But according to the PCA,
even if he's guilty, I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either.
And I think the cell phone data shows the opposite of what the PCA is alleging.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't, they don't even talk about him going back home after. They just jump to his phone's moving south of Pullman. And he goes to Lewiston, which is on the border of Washington State, and across the river, which is Snake River, is Clarkston, Washington. So we have Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington. He's headed down there, and then at 12:36 p.m., so like noon, it shows that he's next to Port Drive Kate's Cup stand. Wait. No. It's Port Drive. It's the street name. Port Drive. And that is Kate's Cup coffee stand.
Okay.
It's Kate's Cup of Joe coffee stand.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm reading my own notes so backwards right now. So he's right next to there. And then surveillance at U.S. Chief Store shows vehicle drive by. And then at 12:46, he's on surveillance at Albertsons. He goes in the store. 12:49, he's walking through buying things. 1:04 p.m., he leaves. And then there's no location data for the next few hours.
Okay.
Then 5:30 p.m., his cell phone is located in Johnson, Idaho. But the thing is Johnson, Idaho does not exist. There is no Johnson, Idaho. So this is where Court TV comes in. Because I found a video by them. Because I was looking it up on my phone. I was like, where is Johnson, Idaho? What was popping up was south, like multiple hours south of Clarkston and Lewiston. And it's like a street or in like some businesses that pop up. It is not a city.
Okay.
So I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. Why would he be that far south? That makes no sense. Because then a little bit later, he's back home.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it didn't make sense. So I found Chanley Painter did a video where, you know, she showed the route. And Johnson is actually in Washington. And this is the map. It's right here. And when it's this little dot right here. And when you look it up on a map, you can clearly tell that if he's driving by on that interstate, the cell tower may say he's there in Johnson, Washington, when really he's just driving by that tiny town.
There's only one tower there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know where that tower is. It's in between Pullman, Clarkston, and Moscow, literally right in the middle.
Right. It's right there. And Chanley was trying to say, and look, it's surrounded by cell phone towers, which I thought was so ridiculous because the picture is just that.
Yeah,
that's not surrounded by cell phone towers. That's probably the only one.
Yeah. That doesn't even look like a cell phone tower to me.
Yeah, it looks a bit odd. I don't know.
There's no bars on it. So I don't know who's saying that's a cell phone tower, but
Chanley Painter on Court TV.
Yeah. I need to see a better view to tell you if that's a cell phone tower. It's too far away.
We can pull up the video. I think there's a few shots of it. But anyway, it's only like 15 minutes south of Pullman. And it's in Washington, not Idaho. And it you know, Chanley says, and it fits the way he's driving down to Clarkston or Lewiston and back up to Pullman. Like, it fits with the trajectory. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense according to what the PCA says. So no, Bryan Kohberger did not drive 2 hours away some way east to a Johnson, Idaho that doesn't exist. He drove down to Lewiston and back up home, apparently to go to Albertsons. But here's the thing. So, like I said, 5:30, he's located in Johnson, Washington. And then from 5:30 it's 5:32 to 5:36 that he's in Johnson. So that's about like 4 minutes.
Okay.
Makes sense for it to be a cell phone tower ping where he's literally just passing by on the interstate.
Yeah.
Well, then his cell phone goes dark for 3 hours where there is no data connection again, just like on the night of the murders. Until 8:30 p.m. So from 5:36 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., his phone is dark. There's no connection. And this is a similar route that he took on the night of the murder, supposedly. Now, not the same area he would have been in, maybe. I mean, we don't really know.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So after he passes Johnson, there's nothing. For 3 entire hours.
Yeah.
Odd, right? So that means he either turned it off, put it in airplane mode, or there's just no cell tower data.
Yeah.
There was no connection to the towers. So what does that mean? Does that mean Bryan Kohberger just likes to turn his phone off sometimes to have like a clear mind? Does that mean the cell tower coverage is that bad in that area? Were their cell towers down? Was he fighting with family and turned off his, phone? Like, I feel like there's so many factors there. But what they allege is like, oh my gosh, he's in the middle of nowhere. He's in the middle of nowhere. Why is this happening? Like, he was probably getting rid of evidence. He was probably throwing the knife somewhere. But my question is, like, just to throw in some reasonable doubt in there, is that, okay, Johnson is 15 minutes south of Pullman, and then Lewiston is 41 minutes.
Okay.
Like, could he not have just taken a day trip down there to go shopping? Because it's there are no other Albertsons in this area. This is the only Albertsons in this entire area.
Yeah.
So for some reason he just really like Albertsons?
Maybe.
Maybe there's a certain thing there that he can only get there that he wants, that he goes down there to get.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. I'm that type of shopper where I will drive way out of my way to get something that I want.
Yeah,
like
I do that too.
Something dumb like chips, you know.
I do that too.
Yeah.
So, you know, that just, it makes me question it. You know what I mean? Like, did he go down to this little area? Because I even looked up the grocery stores in Pullman. There's like a Walmart and a couple others, but there's nothing that great. You know what I mean? Albertsons is like typically a California grocery store, though there are some scattered throughout the country. They're few and far between, though. But they may carry a specific thing that he wanted to go get for some reason. I don't know. I have no idea. But it's not like his, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's curious. It's either super suspicious and shady or it's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything like that is super suspicious or shady. It's for me, it's very black and white. Is there evidence of you concealing, you know,
evidence?
Yeah. Yep.
The murder weapon?
Yep. If there's not, then who cares what you're doing? Who cares that you turned your phone off? Who cares that you went driving all day? Who cares any of that stuff? Those are all things that we're allowed to do. And who cares who judges somebody for that? You know, I want to know if you're concealing evidence or you're doing, or we have evidence of you doing a crime. And that's what's important. And I really hope they do. I do. I hope they do.
So basically what they're saying is they think that he would, on the Court TV video that I watched about this, they said, well, do you think he disposed of evidence in the Snake River down by Lewiston and Clarkston? But the thing is, yeah, it would be smart. But here's the thing. Then why did his cell phone go dark for 3 hours after he was already on his way back up to Pullman, only 15 minutes away from Pullman, and it's dark for 3 hours? And that is the time period where I'd be like, that's sketchy.
Yeah.
That time period is a sketchy time. Not when he's going shopping.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't think he disposed of anything in the Snake River down in Lewiston and Clarkston off that bridge that they're talking about. If anything, it had to be after Johnson.
Yeah.
Washington, between there and Pullman. Or somewhere totally, like he literally drove an hour away while his phone was off and then came back.
Yeah.
And it was in a totally different direction, somewhere we have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Garden City.
Yeah.
By a little no.
Could be. Could be.
Maybe. But yeah, that's his journey after the crime. That's it. That's all we know. That's what's in the PCA. It's really odd to me that they called it the middle of nowhere when he was only 15 minutes out of Pullman. That's not really the middle of nowhere.
No, it's not.
Like he's between two cities.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's only like 40-minute drive. It's not really the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
He was really close to Pullman at that point.
Yep.
But the 3-hour time gap, it's another 3-hour time gap. That's what's weird.
Mm-hmm.
There's another one.
Yeah.
Because isn't the original time gap 3 hours too? Right?
Yep.
It's 3 hours and then 3 hours again. Really strange.
Yep.
But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think that's suspicious? Does that add an element here of guilt for you? Does that possibly signal that maybe the cell tower coverage is really like that bad? Or does he just like turning his phone off and going for drives? I mean, it is plausible. As like suspicious as that sounds to people who really want to believe he's guilty, it is possible.
Yeah.
There's people out there that do it and aren't murderers. So, but I want to know what you guys think in the comments.
Yes. All right. So I have an update for one of the cases that we covered. Multiple people have asked for us to cover this again, and more than likely I'm going to. It just requires a whole lot of researching, of data, of figuring stuff out, and then putting it all together. But I have a couple to add here that I thought were very interesting. So if you guys haven't checked out our couple videos we did on the smiley face killers, you should check them out. We did one smiley face nationally that kind of laid out the
foundation,
the foundation of the story, and one of the two cops that really took this head on and has pushed this theory and figured out quite a bit according to them. Now we also covered the story in Austin, which seems to be an area that's getting hit really hard right now with very similar type deaths as the smiley face theory ideas, you know, the young men that are floating in the river, floating in bodies of water after going missing from, you know, unknown places, from drinking areas, from non-drinking areas, just all of a sudden coming up missing. Now, I have a couple, with us being in Chicago, multiple people have said that there's Chicago bodies that we need to look into. And, you know, I just briefly started looking into it. And one of them is an update from January 31st around Matthew Listman, a 21-year-old student at Illinois State University, was discovered dead in a creek, cops say, around Normal, Illinois. And, you know, he was found literally in a creek, unknown how he got there. And it says died of drowning in the setting of cold exposure. And he's been missing. So it's another prime example of this situation where you have a college kid that looks like he has everything together. He was going for his business major, at ISU, Illinois State University. He's from Libertyville, Illinois, and you know, he was really close to his family. Just looks like a good, normal young kid. Went missing. Family started asking questions, not getting calls back. Reached out, filed a missing person, and days later was found in a creek. So that one's interesting. There's also one that a lot of people know about, the Jelani Day disappearance, a black college kid that was also at ISU, Illinois State University, and was found. His body was found in the Illinois River in Peru, Illinois, and under similar circumstances where he was last seen at a shopping center. Nobody knows how he got to that other area. His car was found dropped in the middle of the woods, and the next they know is he was found floating in the area.
Scary.
Yeah, super scary. We're gonna keep looking on it. Now, there's one other hotbed area that I wanted to mention before we dig into it here, and it is King County. King County, I believe it's Washington. I should have checked. Double check that for me. Is King County, Washington? I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, it is. Okay, so it is King County, Washington. Now, this is really interesting here, okay? So this is a statement from King County in Washington. At least 12 people in King County have drowned so far this year, after the total number last year nearly doubled from 2018. Very similar to what we're seeing in Austin.
Yeah.
Black residents in King County who have less access to pools and swimming lessons are 2.5 times more likely to drown than white residents. Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really strange too. That from what they're seeing, it's mainly colored people of color that are drowning in that area. I haven't had the chance to dig into those stats yet, but so many people were interested in the Smiley face killings that I thought I would just give a couple updates. Now, both of those that I listed in the beginning are labeled as drownings. And again, both family members are like, no way, this wouldn't have happened without some kind of other factor.
That's what's interesting is all of these families, for the most part, are like, that doesn't make sense. Like, we have people on here that are young, that are, you know, very healthy, could swim for a fact. You know what I mean? Like, there's just too many at this point for it to be a coincidence. And the fact, there's just so many factors here that are suspicious that I feel like there just needs to be more eyes on it.
There does need to be more eyes on it. But what makes it hard is, okay, for those of you, maybe you didn't watch our first couple videos and you're going to go back and watch them after this video. I'll give you the rundown real quick. Okay. So smiley face killers are a theory out there that there is this faction and group of people that focus on college-aged men, boys anywhere from 18 to, you know, late 20s, and somehow pick them up from busy areas, specifically bars, but also shopping centers, and randomly, and abduct these men and abuse them and torture them, and who knows what happens to them before dropping them into a body of water filled with a drug like GHB, which GHB is not tested for just on a normal panel. It has to be requested specifically. So if you're filled with GHB and you get thrown in water, you're going to drown. Okay. So they could have been abused and tortured, and the body of water's covering any of that evidence. It's covering the fact that, you know, they were loaded with GHB and thrown in the water to drown at their own accord. But there's this idea that there's this faction and group out there that's doing this to college age men, and there's been theories and ideas that it could be women doing this. There's been theories and ideas that because they're all like middle to upper class, going for business, have hookups into stock market, like stock market professions, any high paying profession, that it could be lower classes that are coming after them. There's been all kinds of theories out there, but for those of you just watching for the first time, that's basically the rundown. Now, when you look at very specific places like Chicago, which we haven't dug into yet, we're going to dig into next, but Austin is one we covered, and now possibly King County in Washington. All of a sudden we're seeing these statistics where, like, in 2018 there was 1 or 2 people, you know. In Austin it was literally 0 or 1 people per year drowning, and then the next year it was 8 people, and it was all college-aged men. And then the next year after that it was a couple more, and then the year after that it dropped just a little bit. But ever since that original 2018 number of like 0 or 1, it's never dropped back down. It's always been 10 times that original number. We're seeing the same thing in King County. We're seeing you know, in Illinois, all over the place. And these guys know how to swim.
Right. So the way they drown. Okay. So GHB, for example, like, it's perfect in a drowning because, like, when you're not going to have full motor function of your body. You're not going to be able to swim after consuming or being injected with GHB. And then once you have passed, when the cops pick you up and they do an autopsy and a toxicology, they're not going to see it unless for some reason they suspect it and they request that.
Yeah.
So a lot of these are going to have gone undetected because they thought, oh, this person, drunk. They were just drunk and they drowned.
I have never in my life, which, mind you, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but I'm a very, 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 very strong swimmer. Like, there's nothing I can't swim out of. Any ocean, any waves, anything like that, undertows, all of that. But I've never been so drunk in my life that I didn't know how to swim.
No,
like,
me either.
Ever.
Me either. And
never.
I have drank and swam a lot.
Me too.
And
Me too.
I'm a strong swimmer, just not. I couldn't swim through anything.
Yeah.
But
I grew up by the beach, literally.
I grew up in water too, and beaches and pools and creeks and you name it, I swam in it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I could swim through anything, but I've been wasted in swimming.
Yeah.
And I have never not been able to swim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these places they're found in, it's not like they have a ton of current.
No, that was literally a creek, and there's been some standing water that these men have been found in, but because they've been in water for so long that, maybe some of the marks that are being done, theory, some of the marks that are being done are being hid by the water. We don't know. We have no idea. But these two officers from our other videos have made some connections. You should go back and watch those videos, because it seems like we have live areas right now, like Austin, like
New York,
King County, like Chicago, that it seems to be the drownings are always college-age men, which statistically that doesn't make sense, dude. That doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. I just wanted to update you guys and give a shout out to these two men. I hope their families are doing okay. I think that they need to be remembered. And I hope that law enforcement finds a reason to keep looking into these cases and doesn't just like whatever closed, you know what I mean?
Discard them like they're nothing.
Yep. Because they had alcohol and because they were found in bodies of water. It's easy to write that off. But the thing is, if there's any possibility, a slim chance, whether it's one person that travels coast to coast and stopping at cities and doing this, and Austin happens to be one of their favorite, I don't know, or it really is a group of people, or there really is, a dark web thing you go to and there's this cult of people. I don't know. But if I was law enforcement, I would want to know.
Yeah.
I would want to make sure. So
do you think college age, that demographic, is intentional because it's less likely to get looked into by police because they're college age young men are known to party?
Yeah, I've said this from the very beginning. If the smiley face killers are real, they are geniuses in their approach. Literally geniuses.
Absolutely.
And I've made this statement before that if this is real and you're part of that, dude, reach out to me. I will 100% keep anything confidential, just to have some kind of anything to know if something like that is real, is more than anybody has ever gotten before. According to the officer, they claim that they found the website and hopped on there. And again, there's no evidence of this. So grain of salt, you know what I mean?
They didn't screen record?
And they were kicked off. Like they were given the website and they noticed that they weren't supposed to be there and kicked them out before any evidence or anything like that could be gathered. So,
man,
yeah, I don't know if it's real. I don't know if it was just information to spark interest to push this idea further, which sometimes you probably need to do if you're an investigator and things are dry, create interest, whatever.
Interest brings money, which brings incentive and time and,
Yep, absolutely. So I don't know. I don't know any of those details. I just know the few cases I've looked into and think they are very interesting. I think that it's very possible that this theory has legs, that it holds water. And I would love to know more about it,
There's too many things here that I feel like it's
too genius if it is somebody.
it is too genius.
They're smarter than the cops. That's it. They've thought of all the ways that are the worst things for investigators. Water is one of the worst. Nobody wants to deal with a swelling body, and I'm sure most medical coroners aren't even trained in what
medical examiners.
Yeah, aren't even trained in what water swollen damaged tissue should look like. You know what I mean? Because there's not too many cases where you need to dig into those details. Normally serial killers do things in a certain way, and it's not water based. So I just think that whoever thought of this, it was smart.
Yeah, there's like
it was smart.
There's body farms where they put corpses through any condition you can think of.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that the coroner is going to be trained on it, or the medical examiner, just because education is trained on it. So
yeah, I guess that's true. I think they would know, kind of, but the thing is that it can hide so many things, deteriorate so many things, that it can get really muddy where you don't really know what you're looking at anymore.
Yeah, I think when you're in water, because your body starts absorbing that water and the tissues and everything, it also makes drugs go out of your system quicker and all kinds of stuff. It just makes gathering evidence on a body extremely hard. It does. One of the hardest things out there. Now you enter cold on top of it, that's a whole other thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what it does to muscles by freezing them and unfreezing. I mean, it's you guys know what your meat looks like after it's been like frost burned and defrost and frost, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing for our bodies. They do the same types of things. So I would love to know if there's something real like this out there, you know.
Like I said, I feel like there's too many coincidences at this point that there can't be something. There's got to be something. Like,
I would love to break the MO. What is it? Is it women that are targeting men that have been abusive to women in some way? Is it a lower class that are taking a jab at the middle to upper class? I don't know. I don't know. What is the MO?
Yeah. I don't know.
If it's real, there's a reason behind it.
Yeah.
And it is not a serial killer. That's not your classic serial killer MO, to where you're overpowering and consuming your victim. There's a motive behind it. There's a motive.
For sure.
I wonder if they target jerks, where all these guys like complete jerks to nerdy kids.
Or like essayers.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So
yeah, it's an interesting theory. Because that's really what it is right now. It's a theory. But I feel like there's some evidence we uncovered in those previous videos that really made it hold a lot of weight.
Yeah,
like
it's the statistics.
It's the statistical data that really sells me on it, and I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. That there's a reason for these numbers. There's a reason drownings have gone up, and they're specifically this demographic always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
So I really would highly suggest go check out the Smiley Face Killers, and also the Austin it's Austin, right? Yeah, it's Austin, Texas. What was the name of the lake? I don't know. It's a
Ladybird.
Ladybird. Yeah, yep. Ladybird. Because it's really interesting, and I think you did a good job of laying out that data so that I mean, like I said, it really sold me on it, man.
It's interesting for sure.
It's terrifying. It's so scary.
Yep. But let me know what you guys think.
Yeah.
And that is it for the show tonight. Make sure that you guys do all the normal things. I know this was a shorter show than normal, but we wanted to make sure and get it in there and, you know, not leave you guys hanging for a week. But This week, we won't have any of the normal editing and stuff in there. We'll just have the bar across the top. And we will be back to our normal programming next week. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you leave a comment. Hit that notification. We are still streaming 4 times a week. We are doing our normal podcast full length on Fridays and then posting those video on demand topics throughout the week. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So hope everyone had a nice holiday and take care. Stay safe. See you next time.
See you later.